story that I'm going to share with you today is about an event that's often called the Transfiguration. Transfiguration means pretty much the same thing as transformation. So this is a story about a time when the way that the Lord looked was transformed. It was changed. Now, most of the time when the Lord was on earth, he looked like an ordinary person. He looks like any person. Last week I showed you this picture of the Lord, and the Lord just looks like a man. And of course we don't know exactly what he looked like, but this is a perfectly good interpretation of what he might have looked like. So, most of the time, the way the Lord looked would have been very familiar, would have been a person with an ordinary body and an ordinary face. In this story, though, he is transfigured. So in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17, it says, "Now after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, led them up on a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. And Peter answered and said to Jesus, 'Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make you three tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah.' While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud saying, 'This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him.' And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid. But Jesus came and touched them and said, 'Arise, do not be afraid.' And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only." Amen. So this transformation seems to mostly have involved the Lord becoming filled with light. It said that his face shone like the sun, and that his clothes became as white as the light. It's like the sun was inside of him and shining through him. Now, how brightly does the sun shine? Hopefully you've never tried too hard to look at the sun because it's too bright. You'll hurt your eyes if you look right at the sun. The sun is amazingly powerful. And when the Lord was transfigured, he was showing his disciples, and he was showing us how powerful he is. He was showing us that he is the God of heaven and earth, and he was showing us that he is as strong as the sun, as bright as the sun, and even stronger. So think about some of the really powerful things that you might have seen. Maybe think about big machines that can carve into the rock and break it up. Well, those machines are like nothing compared to the Lord. Or maybe some of you have been to the ocean and you've seen big waves crashing, and you've thought about how strong the ocean is. Well, the ocean is like nothing compared to the Lord. Or what about a storm? When there's a big thunderstorm and you hear the thunder roll and the lightning flashes, it's kind of like we're being reminded of how powerful the Lord is. And even that storm, though, it's just a tiny glimpse of the Lord's power. He is really, really strong. He is the God of heaven and earth. And it's very important for us to understand that. So why doesn't he appear that way all the time? When he was on earth, why didn't he always shine like the sun? Why did this transfiguration happen just this one time? Well, how did the story say that the disciples felt when the Lord was transfigured? It said that they were afraid. They fell down on their faces and they couldn't even look at the Lord. They were afraid. And that's not what he wants. And so he came to them and he touched them and he said, "Do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw just the Lord as a person. Just the Lord looking like an ordinary human being. And the Lord as a human being made them feel safe. And that's why he comes to us, why he shows himself to us as a human being. Because he wants us to feel safe with him, to feel like we can know who he is, to feel like we could look into his face and see that he loves us. And yes, that power like the sun, that's all inside of him. But the way we're meant to see the Lord is as a human being. Human being with a face and a body we can understand. Someone we can recognize. Someone who makes us feel safe. Amen.